Hello and welcome to Public Forum. I'm Natasha Jhabhaskar. The government has launched its Make in India campaign, but the big question is, can Modi government energize Indian infrastructure? Does the current upturn in sentiment automatically mean that we'll see infrastructure picking up and ensure we get our roads, we get our ports, power and all that on stream? Or is there still a lot to be done? The new government's push for manufacturing could not have come at a better time. India needs to go faster to increase per capita income and create jobs for over 10 million people who join the workforce every year. To create jobs, the country needs to move away from the services-driven growth model to labor-intensive manufacturing-driven growth. In today's edition, we are focusing on infrastructure challenges for the new government in implementing its Make in India initiative. And joining me for more on this very esteemed guest with me, economist Pipula Rao. Thank you very much, Mr. Rao, for joining us in this program. Also with me, senior economic journalist Ashok Das Gupta. Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta, for joining us in this program. With me, Rakesh Mohan Joshi is professor at Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. Thank you very much, Mr. Joshi, for joining us in this program. Transparent and a fairer mechanism as far as coal allocation is concerned. But there are many who say that we haven't heard any sort of grand reform on economic front from the new government, even in terms of infrastructure. And do you somewhere feel that when we talk about infrastructure, what we need is implementation, not really grand reforms?
No, you are absolutely right, because the India, our competitiveness in the international market is basically that of the infrastructure. Something, I think, if you look into the various parts of it, what differentiates, what makes China a manufacturing hub and India not a manufacturing hub, the biggest cost is that of infrastructure.
Right.
You talk even the cost of logistics, which increases, the India's cost of production to more than 20 to 30% compared to that of China at least. It could be more also in given. The road infrastructure, the port infrastructure, the airport infrastructure, the railway infrastructure, I think all these things. Very important part of this government is the government has asked for, especially the investment in infrastructure. If you talk of, you talk of the bullet trains or the better highways, it is basically the infrastructure. And it is only the infrastructure which is going. If the implementation problem you are aware of. You are aware that we came out with the concept of SE jets,
right,
special economic jets. India, incidentally, for a very short period of time, we came out with thousands of SE jets. China has got only 6-7 SE jets. China's SE jets, up to 50,000 hectare land of one SE jet. Indian SE jet could be 5 to 10 hectare land. Indian SE jet, basically, rather than developing infrastructure, contrary to the basic concept of infrastructure, our SE jets ended up into the mechanism to get incentives for everybody.
Right.
What happened is the units which were in the DTA, domestic tariff area, out of SEZ, they converted themselves to be SEZs. And SEZs became an enclave, rather than infrastructure development, but SEZs became an enclave for conduit to get taxes or taxation benefit. And it no way helped the economy in a long term.
Right.
And therefore, I think infrastructure is extremely important.
Infrastructure is really important.
Absolutely.
And also the kind of energy linkage and physical linkages. Energy linkages, as we're talking about coal and power, which is rather very important, but also physical linkages like road and transport, because if you don't have that, how will you actually really motivate the investor to come and invest in it?
No, absolutely right. You talk of energy. India, incidentally, has got the highest number of people living without electricity on the earth. No other country there are. And therefore, electricity is extremely important. Energy needs are extremely. India import 80-85% of its energy needs from outside. And therefore, these things have to be taken care of. But if you look into when we are importing the bulk and we are exporting the bulk, India export iron ore, India import coal, and China is one of the largest importer for these, the minerals. We need to bring value addition. And value addition, when you are trading in commodities, it is the infrastructure which makes your cost competitive, both in terms of import and export.
Mr.
Conceptually, every government is trying to, irrespective of the political party, every government at least apparently trying to streamline these procedures. And we have streamlined the procedure.
Right.
Problem is the other countries have streamlined the procedure more faster and better than us. And therefore, if you see the consistent charge of India doing ease of doing business, we are going down rather than making any progress.
Okay, let's hope that maybe that's the idea behind Make in India initiative, when Prime Minister says first develop India and then talk about foreign direct investments. Demographic dividend we are talking about. China had this demographic dividend in 1993. So in many ways, they are way ahead of us, even in the kind of policies and the environment they created. But if Bangladesh is emerging as a government hub, if Philippines and Indonesia offers better environment, why would the investors want to come to India and invest?
No, there are two things. India has been out of the manufactured goods market. If you see India, which accounts for almost 1/5 of the world population, 125 billion people, India account only for 1.6% share in the global manufacturing market, whereas China accounts for about 17.5% share in the global manufacturing market. India's, the share of manufacturing, the GDP is about 13 to 15% at the most, but China's share is about 32%. Now, if you talk of, manufacturing in India, China's environment is extremely conducive. India has got two things. Number one, how it benefits India. And Prime Minister was, I think, very focused. I find him very focused. Very focused on this. What he said is FDI means is first develop India. Therefore, any investment India should help in developing India. He is focused on FDI in manufacturing sector. He is focused on FDI in infrastructure sector. Secondly, he is also focused on Indian, you are aware of that India's rather than FDI, India's outward FDI is more than the domestic FDI. And therefore, we also need an environment wherein Indian companies, are motivated to invest in India. Environment is created. He was very focused on that. Now, if you talk of the foreign companies, why they should come to India, why not China? Foreign companies for going to China and India, they have got one important reason is, this big population, 125 million people. One is the big market. Big market. They cannot afford to.
Purchasing power. If you think that you want to come to India and seeing it as a big market, the problem is that the big market is not ready to buy.
You're right. And therefore, the Prime Minister says that don't look India as a market.
Right.
Because 800 million people in this country, they live less than $2 a day, and they do not have that purchasing power. Therefore, in order to create those purchasing power, these people have to brought up, and to bring them up, it is the employment required. And this is what is focused is to create this employment. We need manufacturing, we need FDI in the infrastructure sector. So it was, I think, extremely focused.
Right.
And I think there is one more very important point is India even today gives you the opportunity of the low cost labor which China does not. India, the average cost of labor is $137 per month. In China, the cost is $450. Forget about Singapore, which cost about $3,000. And therefore, even the Thailand, Malaysia cost much. India provides you the cheapest location for manufacturing. Only problem in India in manufacturing is its infrastructure.
Right.
So in case infrastructure is improved, in case the government processes is improved, in which the government is putting a lot of emphasis, India
so you're saying India is still a very feasible destination for investors to invest.
Absolutely right.
As far as the investment climate is concerned, we have actually gone down from our third position as the most favorite FDI destination to fourth now. So let's see that maybe this Make in India initiative can really attract investors.
Not only third, it was second destination till 2009. And it was second destination in 2002.
So are we saying that the infrastructure has gone down from, it was earlier much better and now it has gone down?
Infrastructure has not gone down, but infrastructure in other countries has improved much faster.
Okay. The other side of this break about centralizing administration, because there are many who are saying that, at a time when we're talking about devolution of funds, decentralization, empowering people, why this, what you call a top-down approach rather than a bottoms-up approach? But before that, I'll take your comments on the fact that he also said we want highways, we also want information ways for a digital India. Now, digital India is also being seen as a very big initiative to empower people in terms of information and how actually social media and information IT can play a very strong role in days to come. But education remains a challenge. Now, you don't have the youth of the country or a good percentage not very educated. How do you think that digital India can be a big...
I think it's the information technology has made, the people proliferation of information. Earlier, what was the problem is there was an asymmetry of information. Only a few people had information. Those who had information was very powerful. Now, in this age of information democracy, not democracy, information democracy, each of us have an information. Before a decision is taken, on the WhatsApp and the Facebook, everybody across the world is aware of. And I think with the Modi, especially I think we have got probably one prime minister who has demonstrated the whole world. India is not Singapore. India is not Dubai. It's a country of 125 million people. And he has demonstrated that at one stroke in 2 hours, prime minister can interact with the people right from Andaman Nicobar to Leh, from Manipur on one day. And there could be two-way interaction. So I think this is, creating an infrastructure of information highway or an information infrastructure will reduce the information asymmetry between those who do not have and between those who have. And once those who have information, they are empowered. And then the highest of the people at every level, the government, the ministries, the bureaucrats, the politicians, the leaders, the companies will get idea of the minds of 125 billion.
Right, and that is the initiative, be it the planning commission, what should be the logo of planning commission, what should be the logo for the sanitation campaign. The government is taking ideas from the citizens.
No, you are right. Sanitation campaign itself is unparalleled. If you talk, what is the difference in Singapore and India? What is the difference in West and India? It is cleanliness, and it does not require high-tech space technology. Anyway, India is in the super club of high space technology, but at the same time, I think this is a small things which we have neglected.
Right, discipline and making ministers as well as bureaucrats also accountable. But four important areas when you see the performance of this government in the last 100 days, that the major areas where the government is actually trying to function is on improving governance, also reviving private sector activity, achieving fiscal consolidation, and attracting foreign capital. So can in some or the other way we can say that the new government, is it more pro-market or is it more pro-business?
You are right, because if you see in the earlier government, the basic problem was what we say is policy paralysis and indecisiveness. Right. Something, whatever the institutional mechanism you call, at least the decisions are being taken. And you talk of the pro-market or pro-business. I think the Prime Minister has made it very clear yesterday. What he said is, first develop India. He is pro-India, neither pro-market nor pro-people. And to develop the market, you talk of pro-business. Unless you develop business, there will be no employment generation. Right. And if you talk of the employment generation, India with 25 million people, the share in the manufacturing sector employment generation is only less than 6%. In case of China, it is more than 34%. Ultimately, you need to generate employment. If you generate employment, it's pro-people. It's pro-people. It's pro-people. You talk of the sanitation, it is pro-people. Sanitation is not only the cleanliness, but your health bill will go down. If you talk of, and if you streamline the processes, which you are just discussing about, the centralization or, what you call as an over-centralization in the PMO, at least there is a decision, at least there is a streamlining of the procedure, and the government automatically becomes pro-investment. Investment will come if the processes are more streamlined. India, the biggest challenge is to start a business, we rank about 188. 182. I think we are at the bottom countries in terms of starting a business. And this is the basic problem of the processes in this country.
But is the government too cautious in terms of economic reforms, the way it is going ahead? Because there are many in the market also say that we were hoping for bold reforms, which are still very missing.
You kindly understand, you have to be cautious also. You cannot...
No, because on one side talking about fiscal consolidation, on the other side not doing nothing about subsidy reforms. So, gas pricing again, we've seen how the market responded yesterday on gas pricing. So these challenges is something which the government should immediately try and address, because that's also a core issue of the economy.
No, I think that's also a focus area of the government.
And comments from you, Mr. Joshi.
No, I think I'm extremely impressed, because the logo they have made is that of a tiger, that of a lion. India, rather than they were so far India was considered as an elephant, very big, very slow. He has said that, we have swiftness of the line and the strength of the line. And I think it's at least the sentiments have improved. From policy paralysis, we have come to there is some policy. From, I think, lack of governance, which was considered even in the public, perception of the people have improved, perception of the foreigners have improved, perception of the industry has improved, and perception of the customers have improved. And other things will take time.
And we also hope that this perception gets converted into real activity and we see investment coming in. Thank you very much, Mr. Rao, Mr. Gupta, and also Joshi for joining us in this program. And